Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I wanted to go through part 2 in a series of videos where I'm going to look at the different challenges in the Heist League and give you a few tips and tricks if you're looking to acquire 12, 24, 36 or 40 challenge completions. Now, this is the video where I'm going to be covering a guide for going for 24. Now, the first video covered the 18 challenges that I deem the easiest to reach. And those are discussed, and I'll link to that video below. But essentially, if you're looking for tips on any of those, then by all means check that video out. There's timestamps below in the description, so you can jump around in the video and find the specific information you're looking for. So for instance, if you're looking for a little bit of help with the Encounters 3 Precision Boss Kills challenge, then have a quick look in that video because it's covered there. This video is going to cover the 11 challenges I consider to be in the middle. I would recommend that you do most of these if your goal is to go for 24 challenges. You can definitely skip a couple. So if, for instance, you find Cirrus Awakener of Worlds too hard to beat, then by all means, skip him and you'll be able to get 24 challenges without it. However, I'm expecting you'll do all 18 from the first video plus 6 from this video in order to reach the 24 threshold. The last video is going to look at the 11 hardest ones. So, the first thing that needs to be said is how to get all of your rogues. In order to get 24 challenges, you're pretty much absolutely going to need to meet all 9 of the rogues, the heist rogues. The way that you get these is by completing a mission with your newest rogue. So when you start, you'll only have one rogue. From memory, it's Cast, although I'm not certain of that. And then I think Cast will ask, oh, can I bring along a friend on this job? And from memory, he brings along Talina. And then assuming that you successfully complete that heist with Cast, then you'll permanently have Cast and Talina. Then you can keep doing further missions with Cast, or alternately, you can choose to go with Talina instead. And if you go with Talina, she'll bring along a friend as well. And that's how you get to meet another rogue. Maybe it's Gianna that you meet that way. I can't remember the order of them, but you'll get them all if you do that. The cheesiest, oh sorry, not the cheesiest, the easiest way to work out which one you need to go with is just look through all of your rogues for the ones that have 0 XP in jobs. So the ones that have got level 1 jobs, just do something with them, and that will help you. Get all of your rogues together. And that's going to be important for a couple of the challenges in here. So first up in the challenges that are required to hit 24, or recommended to hit 24, is defeat the Conquerors of the Atlas. Now, once you're solidly at endgame, you'll undoubtedly get Baran, Veritania, Alhesman, and Drox by yourself. In fact, killing all 4 of these is pretty much a prerequisite for getting past about tier 5 maps. However, Cirrus is a whole different can of worms. Cirrus is the end boss of the Conquerors of the Atlas content, and as a result, he's one of the bigger bosses in the game at the moment. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can fight Cirrus, and the difficulty of the fight is heavily impacted by the number of watchstones that you have in your Atlas at the time that you talk to Zana to initiate the fight. So firstly, you cannot encounter Cirrus until you have acquired your 20th watchstone. That is 20 watchstones. Once you've got your 20th watchstone, once you loot your 20th, you'll be given one opportunity to fight Cirrus. Go and talk to Zana, and you can choose how many watchstones are locked in your Atlas at the time. That will influence the awakening level, which will be the number you see in the middle of your map. In the middle of your Atlas. If you have all 20 of your watchstones socketed, then you'll be fighting awakening level 5 Cirrus. If you have none of your watchstones, you'll be fighting awakening level 0. The way that the awakening level impacts Cirrus, firstly, he'll get some extra hit points just based on the normal way that map bosses scale hit points with awakening level, but also going from 5 to 6, or 6 to 7, or 7 to 8 causes Cirrus's monster level to go up by 1. Monster level going up by 1 has about the effect of giving him 4.5% more damage, 1% more action speed, and about 15% more life. Needless to say, it's quite a bit easier to fight him at awakening level 5 or lower, because as a result of that, he'll act a little bit slower, and he'll have a lot less hit points, and he'll do a bit less damage as well. However, some of the best loot that Cirrus can drop is locked to having higher numbers of watchstones in there. So for instance, you cannot get the Misinformation Ivory Watchstone, one of the unique Ivory Watchstones that Cirrus drops, very powerful mapping consumable, unless you have at least 6 Awakening level, so 24 Watchstones socketed. Ultimately, the decision's up to you, but for the purposes of the challenge, the easiest way to do it is to do it at Awakening level 0. You'll get pretty terrible loot that way, but you'll get it done. Alternately, you can bring a person that is experienced with the Cirrus fight along and have them help you. Lastly, if you're looking for tips and tricks on how to beat this fight, I highly recommend a guide, which I will link in the description below, that's been written by streamer and YouTuber Don the Crown, and he looks at a lot of mistakes that people make while fighting Cirrus, and the most significant one that he says is people who have a range type character electing to stand at maximum range from Cirrus. You don't want to stand at maximum range from him, you want to stand close. Point blank range is safer against Cirrus than standing at long range. Anyway, that's Conquerors of the Atlas challenge. The only reason that it's in the 24 video and not the 12 one is because you need to beat Cirrus for it. Also, I should add that if you want to download this spreadsheet that you see here, I've posted it onto my blog, sirgog.com. And I'll put a link for that as well. Next up, we have Heist Enchantment Modification. This here is a little bit RNG driven. It requires you to do about 10 grand heists, and those grand heists have to be ones that have enchanted armaments or enchanted armor as the rewards. However, you'll be able to pick from 5 options each time you run a grand heist, and that means that it's actually pretty easy to get the ones you're missing. So you'll see here that I've got 6 of the 10. I'll probably be able to get to 10 of 10 with another 2 or 3 4-win grand heists. That's all I'm likely to need, and then I'll be able to knock this one off. Alternately, if you're in a trade league, you can simply borrow these items from someone that trusts you, or you can even pay someone to loan you them, and that will allow you to do it. You don't need to run these out of the grand heist, you just need to wear them. Next up, we have a very similar one, equip experimenter base types. Now, this one is interesting. You need to source an amulet, a belt, a ring, a shield, and a weapon from the experimenter base types. That is not too hard. The thing you need to be aware of is that these will always compete with replica unique items. And you don't want to be in a situation where you're choosing an experimented ring, but there's also a very valuable replica like Replica Nebulous that you're choosing to take the ring instead. You want to take the best item and only use this challenge as a tiebreaker. Ultimately though, this shouldn't be hard at all. This is the sort of thing that you can do in 3 or 4 grand heists that have as their target replicas or unique items. It's a very reasonable one because you only need 5 and you do get quite a lot of opportunity to choose between them. For equip high strokes, the trick to this one is that you're going to want to source level 3 job requirement items. So you may notice that a lot of the talk about heists in general has been about how powerful the foliate brooches are, but there's lower tier brooches as well. There's the enamel brooch from memory is the tier 3 one. I think there's a tier 4 one. These can be worn at lower heist rogue level. The key here is that you're going to need to find one of these for Huck the Soldier. Huck the Soldier can only go to level 3 in any given job. And he's able to do 4 different jobs, but he's only able to go to tier 3 in each of them. So that means that Huck cannot equip any items that require level 4 in a job. That makes Huck the difficult part for this challenge. What you're going to want to do is, if you are solidly at endgame at the moment, you might actually want to drop away from the monster level 83 heist you've been running and go and pick up some monster level 68, 70, that sort of area ones, and go and run those, and make sure that your loot filter is showing heist equipment that is lower item level and lower quality than you'd normally pick up. Then what you want to do is just find things like a blowtorch, all of the sort of different profession gear, one for each profession, and then you'll be able to to scour and then elk those items, make something that you can just put into each slot on each of the rogues. Once you've done that, you'll be able to transfer your gear around. So whatever gear set you get for Huck, just simply swap that around and put it on each of your other rogues, except that you will need a different tool, a different job-specific tool. It'd be really easy to do in practice once you've got Huck done. Huck is the hard part, and that's the reason. The reason that I put this into the 24 category is that you do need to meet all 9 rogues to do it. Next up, we have divination cards. This is a bit of an economic trainer, and I just want to recommend the easiest ones to go for. So, for the set of 1, there's a few options. There's the Void, which drops a lot from stack decks. There's the Cartographer's Chisel one, 10 Cartographer's Chisels, which will drop a lot from stack decks as well. And there's the Heroic Shot for 17 Chromatic Orbs, which will also drop frequently from Arcanist Strongboxes. Arcanist Strongboxes are probably the most reliable way to get one of these, and you'll probably get the Heroic Shot without really trying for it. If you're the sort of person that runs even 50 maps, you'll probably get this one. For 2 or 3, you want the Lover Divination card, which drops from maps that have Merveil as a boss. So there is the unique map, the Maelstrom of Chaos. This will almost certainly give you a set of this card. There is also the map Underground Sea, which you might need to run 2 or 3 of to get a set of the Lover. Very easy set to compile. For a set of 4, you can either use the Warden, which drops from the Tower map, or the Gambler, which drops from most outdoor maps. The Warden's a set of 4, the Gambler is a set of 5. Either will work. These both are very common divination cards, and the outdoor maps in question are the ones that broadly look like the terrace map. So terrace, courtyard, gardens, and I think there's a couple of others as well. For 6 or 7, you're going to want 3 Faces in the Dark, which drops from factory maps, from arsenal maps, and also drops an enormous amount from heist chests that award currency returns. For 8 or 9, you're going to want Tabula Rasa from the Humility Divination card. This will also cover the vendor and item for a Divine Orb, which was one of the challenges that I listed in the video for going for 12, because you can then vendor a Tabula Rasa and you will receive a Divine Orb for it. What you're going to want to do here, though, most people, when they think of farming a Tabula Rasa, their thoughts immediately go to Act 9 and the Blood Aqueduct. Get that idea out of your mind. What you want to do is instead farm heists at early endgame, so this is just in maps, and you want to go for Armorer's chests. So the chests that have an armor reward on them in reward rooms, go for those. They will frequently drop the Humility Divination card. For 10 or more, there's a couple of options. The first ones that I thought of were Anarchy's Price, which drops from Rogue Exiles, but only when they're added to maps through the Anarchy's End prophecy chain. The Anarchy's End prophecies are really common, and the drop rate is 100% for this card. If you get Anarchy's End 1, 2, 3, and 4 and do them all, then you will get a 13 set of Anarchy's Price. So that's if you're engaging with the prophecy system. Your alternative is the Prosperity Divination card from the Shore map, which also drops a lot from currency chests in, from jewelry chests in Heist. And your other alternative, which I didn't think of when I was writing the spreadsheet, but that needs to be said as well, is the Chains That Bind, which is a set of 11 for a random 6-link body armor. Now, this again drops in a couple of specific map tile sets, but we're not thinking of map tile sets here. We're not going to farm dungeons or cages or pens or whichever map it's from. Just like the Tabula Rasa here, you're going to get this one by opening armor-themed chests in Heist. Next up, we have Complete Encounters 4. This is one of those ones that's about grinding past league mechanics. So, these can be forced onto maps by using Zana mods, although doing so can be expensive, and especially in this league where Chaos Orbs are the only currency that's worth anything, using Zana's mods to force these mods onto your maps will cost you a fair bit. However, it's not particularly onerous. Abysses appear in 10% of zones from Act 6 onwards, and the only reason that I've only done 18 is because I'm lazy and I don't usually do them. I'm going to need to obviously run another 32 of them. I can either force them onto maps with Zana, I could use sextants that force them onto maps, or I could just keep running more and more maps and eventually find them. For interacting with shrines, this one is the easiest of them. Shrines are just quite a bit more common than these other league mechanics, and additionally there are common sextant roles that will add a lot of shrines. So interacting with shrines should be really, really, really easy to complete. Successfully complete Blight encounters. Blight will be in 10% of your maps, and additionally is in obviously 100% of Blight maps, and is something you can force onto maps with a Zana mod, albeit an expensive one. Easiest way to do this is just going to be to roll maps that are pretty easy, and then just look around them for Cassia in those maps. So just make sure that they're maps that aren't difficult enough that you are at any real risk of failing the Blight encounter if it's there. And then, if you're not familiar with Blights, what I would suggest you do is, in terms of just your strategy in them, is overload on minion towers to start with, and upgrade them to scout towers when given the chance. This is not the best strategy always, but it's a solid performing strategy. The minion towers will assist you, but ultimately it's your damage that will clear the encounter. The minion towers will just simply help you in doing so. But passing through Delirium Mirrors, there's an advanced farming strategy that involves spending 16 Chaos Orbs to force a Delirium Mirror onto a map. This is generally not worth doing unless you really know what you're doing. And if you're interested in seeing a video on exactly how that advanced farming strategy works, I will link the Twitch streamer Grimrose video on the question, which is an excellent outline. However, I will warn you that this is not for the faint of heart. You will need a very powerful character to do it. If you're struggling with encounters like Uber Elder and Cirrus, then I would not suggest attempting Grimro's Delirium Mirror strategy. However, you will find Delirium Mirrors in 5% of zones normally, but this 5% increases when you have other sorts of encounters like this on the map, whether that's come through luck or through the use of scarabs or other means. What I suggest you do, if you're looking to get more Delirium Mirrors and you've got plenty of time, I suggest that you buy cheap scarabs now. Go and buy a whole bunch of polished and rusted Paranda scarabs, polished and rusted Harbinger scarabs, polished and rusted Metamorph scarabs, as all of these, I believe, add to the chance of you getting a Delirium Mirror, and additionally, they'll pay for themselves in loot when you run the map that they're on. So that's a way of getting more Delirium Mirrors than you otherwise would. And that's why, even though the base chance is 5%, I actually have made more progress towards this than I have on the Blight Encounters one, where the base chance is 10%. That's because I tend to use a Paranda Scarab on basically every map that I run, because they're basically free. Oh, maps with Fortune Favors the Brave. Fortune Favors the Brave will pick one of the Zana mods at random. Doing it 30 times is going to cost you 90 chaos, and is going to give you completion for this, and will also give you some progress towards these other 4 as well. So it's well worth considering. Ultimately, what I suggest you do here is pick one of these to skip, do the rest, because you only need 4 of the 5 encounters. And if you're not sure which one to skip, skip Delirium Mirrors, because it's the most expensive to get there. Next up, we have complete 8 mod maps. 8 mod maps will be a result that you'll get 12.5% of the time when you apply a Varl Orb to a map. So if you get into a habit of Varling all of your red maps, then you will get this one really easily. Although you will still need to roll 240 maps in order to get enough red tier rare maps that have got 8 mods on them. Ultimately, this is something that you will get just by playing the game, as long as you're using Varl Orbs. Just one thing I will warn you is that when you use a Varl Orb on a map, it can, and if it goes 8 mods, it will change the mods that are on the map. And when this happens, you might find that there's a mod you can't beat on it. So if your character is unable to beat a map that has Physical Reflect on it, then just be very careful when you Varl a map that it doesn't end up getting Physical Reflect on it. If it does, that's fine. Put it aside, trade it to another player, or perhaps use it when you've got use it in conjunction with a Sextant that causes players and their minions to be immune to Reflect. Level heist jobs. This is a very straightforward grind. This is going to require you to get 10,000 experience in each of the jobs, and you will get about 605 from memory for completing a monster level 83 heist. So essentially this means complete 17 level 83 heists for each of the different jobs, and that will pretty much get you there. This is not a small grind, but it's not a big one either. And it's one that I think is perfectly reasonable to do if your goal is going for 24 challenges, although it's also perfectly reasonable to skip. I suggest skipping this one if you don't enjoy the heist, but if you do enjoy the heist, then definitely do this one and skip some of the grindier, mappy ones. Require replica unique items. This is another one that is about grand heists and an element of luck. Now, this is probably the hardest of the three. I mentioned earlier there's replica unique items here. Earlier we had a heist enchantment modification and equip experimented bases. Here, you need to actually be the person that succeeds in the run out. So if you were to be running through a grand heist, you open up the curio, find a replica headhunter. You're really excited. You're running back to the exit, and then you get one shot by some sniper arrow. Then you actually don't get credit for this challenge from that. Not only do you lose your replica headhunter, but you also don't get the credit here. You need to be the person that carries it out. That's why I consider this the hardest of these three, but it's still one where the RNG elements of it are very strongly ameliorated by the fact that you've got 5 choices each time you're running a grand heist. Pay attention to the fact that flasks and shields and quivers are the rarer ones here. So flasks, I believe there's only 2 replica flasks. Shields and quivers, I believe there's 3 or 4 total. So if you see one of those, you may want to prioritize it if there's no really good item. So let's say if your choices were between, say, a 10 chaos chess piece, a 10 chaos wand, and a 2 chaos flask, you might decide, even in a trade league, you know what, I'm going to take the flask anyway because I want to get this credit. Next up we have complete unique maps. This is one that comes up all the time in a lot of the different leagues, and it's a really straightforward one. Basically, do 15 out of these 19 unique maps. There are some that you should skip, and I want to go through why. Skip Hall of the Grandmasters because the map is brutally hard. This is quite possibly, although it's a bit gimmicky, it's quite possibly the hardest single encounter in the entire game. It's something that many very powerful characters simply can't beat because the character isn't metagamed against the unique challenges posed by Hall of the Grandmasters. So yeah, this one's really unfair and difficult. It can be done, and as you see, I've got completion for it, and that's because I simply found the map and paid someone else in a trade league to beat it for me. I have done this myself in a different league. I did it in the Synthesis League, but even then, I've never done this deathless. It's a really hard map. Next, there's 2 that are genuinely rare. Doriani's Machinarium, which drops from Ahutotli the Blind in the Delve Mines, and it's not 100% drop rate from Ahutotli or anything like it. I think it might be like a 20% drop rate. So this map is quite expensive usually, and Parandus Manor is also very rare. Lastly, there's Vinctar Square. The only way to get Vinctar Square is by a vendor recipe that involves selling 4 specific unique staves to a vendor: Agorod South, Agorod East, Agorod West, and Agorod North. I also believe you need to throw in a fusing orb, although I'd have to check that. I've never actually done this vendor recipe. I just know that it exists. That's where the Vinctar Square map comes from. It's a nuisance to get because you need to trade. You basically need to do 4 different trades with other players to get all of the different staves. Then you vendor them all, and you get the map. It's a nuisance, so that's why it's one that I recommend skipping. Of course, if you do one of those 4 maps that I recommend skipping, Machinarium, Manor, Square, and Hoggum, then you can skip one of the other ones. Coward's Trial is a really good map, but it is also one of the rarer ones now, so it's the other one that you may end up deciding to skip. Lastly, there is complete Heist Quests. So these Heist Quests will appear in Smuggler's Caches. Smuggler's Caches appear in 1 in 10 maps also, and also about 1 in 10 zones in the storyline content. When you open a Smuggler's Cache, there'll be 3 different things you can get. You can either get, well, you'll always get some rogue markers, but you'll either get a unique contract, or you will get a quest contract, or you will get normal contracts. It seems pretty common to get these quest contracts if you've got any of them that you haven't done. and they tell stories that will give you a bit of an introduction to all of the various NPCs that are involved in the heist lore. So I highly recommend doing them all. They're all generally pretty basic. Now, if you fail any of these heists, you will be able to find the same heist again later. So for instance, I failed disengagement twice. I failed it once to an instance crash, and I failed it once to a death. But every time that I failed it, it went back in the drop pool, and I was able to get it again later. Eventually, I was able to get myself another copy of disengagement, talk to Talina, get the quest, go and run the quest heist, complete it, and then see the storyline associated with it. I do recommend it because it will give you a real sense of what motivates the various NPCs in the Heist League. Anyways, that's all I've got as far as going for 24 challenges goes. 36 will be one of the next videos I put out. It may be the immediately next one, or I may have something else in between. If you have any questions or comments, definitely fire away below. If you've been interested in the video, then consider subscribing. And if you think the video should be seen by more people, give it a thumbs up. If you think it should be seen by less people, give it a thumbs down. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it there, and I hope you have a good one.